If you are going to have a hyperactive hive mind in your office, this means you're going to have all of these different back and forth conversations happening with unscheduled messages. Most of them need to be moved forward relatively quickly. So the proximate impact of this is very frequent checking of inboxes, be it email or Slack. Some of the data I cite, for example, was showing once every 5 to 6 minutes was about average for how often people were checking their inboxes. I think this feels about familiar. That proximate behavior has a really deep negative impact, mainly of the way it interacts with our brain's attention centers. The human brain can't very quickly shift context back and forth like a computer processor. It's a messy process because we have to inhibit certain neural networks and we have to amplify other neural networks. It can take a while. I finished a conversation with you and I want to now change my attention over to writing an article. It's going to take 10 or 15 minutes until I've really calmed down all of the semantically related neural networks to our conversation and have really amplified up the semantic networks relative to my article. And only at that point will I really be sort of rock and rolling and making some real progress. If we're checking inboxes, be it Slack, be it Teams, be it email, if we're checking these every 5 minutes, every time we check, we initiate one of these slow, messy cognitive context shifts, but we don't let it complete because look, we're just waiting to see 3 or 4 messages that we need to get back to real quick. So we initiate it. And before it completes, we then try to wrench our attention back to the thing we're doing before us. And so now we have colliding context. And before all the networks that got fired up by looking at that inbox can finally finish being inhibited, we look back at the inbox again. And it's probably slightly different networks because now there's a new email in there from a client and now the networks related to that client are firing up. And then we go back to the work and we go back there. It's a cognitive catastrophe. So our brain simply can't do it. If you're checking an inbox that frequently, your brain is in this persistent state of significantly reduced cognitive capacity. It's also fatiguing. It's why by 2 or 3 in the afternoon, where it's like, I just give up. I'm just going to do Slack for the rest of the day. It's because our brain has been exhausted from all this context shifting. It also makes us anxious. This anxiety is differentially applied. So depending on various personality traits, this could be more or less pronounced, but it doesn't make us feel good. There's a lot of data for that. So it really is a disaster for both our cognitive capacity, our energy, and our emotional health. All of these things are deeply negatively affected if we create a day around constant back and forth context shifts.